Welcome to another episode of Big Risk Energy. I'm your host, Roei. I'm a serial entrepreneur, having founded multiple businesses, including one that I scaled and sold to a gaming company in 2018. I've been an investor for the last 5 years, and I'm also super passionate about neurodiversity, suffering with severe ADHD and dyslexia myself. On this podcast, we talk to an amazing range of people, from actors to academics, investors to entrepreneurs, politicians, musicians, scientists, and everyone in between. And we talk to these people about risk. Risk they've taken in their lives, risk they've taken in their careers, when they paid off and when they didn't. And on this episode, I am blessed to be joined by the one and only David Dabieh. David is a serial entrepreneur. He is the co-founder of record label CloudX and is also a musician and producer himself. David, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate you.
So you've done a lot of things. You've been involved with, you've thrown music festivals all over the UK, you've had your finger in so many pies, but where does your relationship with risk and entrepreneurialism begin?
Where does it begin? That's a very good question. I don't really see myself as someone that takes risks in a very, in a very binary way. Like, the idea of risk to me is, am I doing something that makes me feel like I'm being authentic to myself? And at the point in which the answer is no, that's where I feel like I'm not being myself, and that's the risk. That the risk for me is existing inauthentically.
Super interesting. So how do you check in with yourself to make sure that, because obviously, you've got such an entrepreneurial mind, it's very easy in this life to allow commercialism to impact authenticity. Yeah. How do you keep that in check?
I think I don't know if I do keep it in check, to be honest. I think what I do is to think consciously and proactively about not just myself, but about the world around me. And at least that way, when I gaze out and make decisions, I have a considered approach to what I'm doing. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, of course. So what is it that you would like to see in the world around you? Because I know that you're someone who's so driven by mission, by impact. Remember when you were doing the first CloudX festival a couple years ago, how mission driven that was. I feel like you are someone who is so driven by things that you want to see. So, what gives you that drive? What do you want to see?
What I'd like to see in the world is, I want to see a space and a world where people are self-aware, where they are honest with themselves, where they are honest about their environments, and in doing so, where they're honest with each other and with others. And that's it. Like, it's actually no more than that. Like, I just like when people live, like, honestly, authentically, and courageously, because we're not here for very long. So why I've then manifested that into, building businesses, for example, it's like, I just see a space and I say something is not happening in that space in a way that I think it should, and I'd like to make that happen. And if that move helps people to feel seen or heard, then that's a good thing.
So how important is, I like to go super deep. We ran into each other 2 weeks ago, hadn't seen each other in a few years. It was straight into the meaning of life. So obviously I'm going to do that right now.
Of course.
How important is authenticity to art? Because I speak to a lot of people who are, let's say they're moving across different genres, they're doing things which are true to themselves, but you also see a lot of art which is incredibly manufactured, which can be very, very successful. Yeah. So how important is that authenticity to creating true art?
How do you define art?
That's a good question. I guess I don't have a definition of art myself. I guess for me, art is something which is created with the purpose of eliciting or affecting emotions and response.
100%. And when in the world do you feel like you have great conversation with people, great dialogue?
When you're being authentic.
100%. That's, how important is it? How important is it to be a accurate reflection of a feeling or an emotion? Very important. Like, that's how you get close to people. If you're in a relationship, any relationship, work, or a love relationship, and the person opposite you is not being authentic or honest, it is very difficult to create real, true intimacy and connection. So that's what art is. Like, it's a reflection of an authentic self. And you can see that in stories. Like, some of the most simple lines are the ones that have taken everybody by storm. You know, like Amy Winehouse, and she says, they try to make me go to rehab. And I said, and we're all singing along, but she's really telling us a real dark story there.
Yeah.
But it's authentic and it's true. And people know that feeling of being told to do something that they don't want to do, or feeling frustrated or anxious or angry or controlled, you know, like people know that feeling. Or when Adele says something so simple like, never mind, I'll find someone like you. We all have that.
Truer words never hit so deep.
It's so simple, right? It's not like some crazy, not some mad metaphor. It's so simple. But when she delivers it so honestly and so succinctly that we can all connect. So how important is authenticity in art? For me, very important, you know. For me, very important. But it's not because of art, it's because of people. Like, authenticity in people, connection with people, comes from being our honest and true selves, in my opinion.
So it's an amazing answer. I think it's really interesting to hear what you say about simplicity as well, because sometimes if, you know, that authenticity is such a key part, then the simplicity comes with it. You don't always need to overcomplicate everything.
Of course.
And sometimes that's the most accessible way of doing it as well. But I imagine that along your journey and seeing all the different things that you've done, and if it's running events, if it's running a record label, have you ever felt that pressure to try and conform to something which is more manufactured, which might drive commercial results further? And how's your relationship with that changed?
I mean, the honest truth is that, like, you can't put something out in the world anyway that doesn't have limitations, right? So what I mean to say is, if I want to put out a vinyl, I can only put so much music on it anyway. I can put a 25-hour vinyl out. I've already got a limitation just because of the format I'm going to put it out in, right? So there's always going to be certain types of limitations that you have, and you have to accept that, and that's fine. You know what I mean? That it's not something you have to beat yourself up over. But I also think you have to accept that when you do something for money, whatever that is, there is a commercial value that also comes with restrictions, right? Like, if you want to be a, you know, let's say a world famous touring artist who sells out stadiums, it is impossible to do that if you never release music, right? And it is impossible to do that if you never market your music. It is impossible to do that if you never buy studio time and mix and master. All of these things which come down to money, it costs money. So I think that I look at the limitations we have, and then I think about how we can best express ourselves within those limitations. And I accept them, and I try to make sure that they don't determine the story. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to make something so that it fits onto it. But I understand that there's these limitations, and I don't think about it too much though, but I have to be honest. I'm not that, it's not something that weighs me down too much.
When we talk about art and authenticity, and you related it to conversation before, I'm not an artist. I've created businesses, but I've never...
Oh, I mean, that's so funny. You think you're not an artist?
Well, I mean, I did stand up for 18 months, but if you ever saw my stand up, people would say that was definitely not art, or at least an interesting version of art. But for me, like, conversation is my art, in the sense of that's why I love doing this. I love creating conversation, and I love being real with people. Like, as we said, I saw you 2 weeks ago, we haven't seen each other in years, and we got straight into what is the meaning of life. And that's for me what I'm, you know, what I get excited about in my day.
But how do you not see yourself as an artist when you build businesses?
I guess, going back to my own definition of art, it is something that we create to elicit a response. But I think, I don't know, for me, I think if you build it for a commercial purpose at its core, then I think it can't necessarily be art, but I'm someone who doesn't think overly manufactured. Like for me, when I look at music now, and this is someone as an outsider, I see that music is being created formulaically because it's going to work well on TikTok. You know, there are literally farms creating bits of music, and I don't consider that art, right? We talk about the lack of authenticity. So I you know, that's how I see it.
Yeah. It's funny because I've always thought of you as an artist.
Well, that's the biggest compliment I've had today by far.
No, but like to your point about, you know, the fact that you make it for a commercial purpose, that's fine. Because what you're also doing is connecting dots, bringing a world together, and then making it make sense in a way that people, in a capitalistic sense, want to invest into. That means you are really succinctly communicating a set of ideas. That's a beautiful thing. Not everyone can do it. And you do very well.
Amazing.
Like, how are you not an artist? I look at you, I'm like, you're a great artist.
I'm going to change my intro. I'm going to be serial artist.
Yeah,
serial
100%,
entrepreneur from here on out. 100%. Love that. Okay, it's a whole new way for me to look at things. So let's talk about risk and art as well, because I think that's something interesting, especially when we live in a society where, you know, if you say or do the wrong thing, that can be you done.
Yeah.
So how do you see, or do you see at all, that fear of judgment, fear of doing things wrong is impacting the way people create art?
100%. I mean, we have the illusion of freedom of speech. We have the illusion of a world where people will have a platform to speak, but it's illusion, you know, because people just get ripped down in a second. Like, you're not allowed to get it wrong. You get it wrong and you're fucked. Like, you get it wrong and for good reason, right? We live in like how do I explain it? We're like overcompensating and not deliberating enough. We're like pointing the finger really quickly before we ever look in the mirror. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Completely.
And like, that is what, frankly, like social media and, you know, particularly the likes of Twitter has done is, and also just the media generally, they get people to make decisions via polarity. That's when you're, you know, when is it you want to eat? When you're starving. If I'm starving, I've got to run out and get food. So they need to get people to the point that they're starving. You know what I'm saying? That where they have a vehement reaction to stuff. So they create polarity. And that means that we're in a space where people don't feel comfortable to get it wrong. And so a lot of the ugly thoughts, the bad thoughts, the wrong thoughts are being created internally and they're not being expressed, which means that people can't be educated. Like, we need to have, and this is my life opinions, it's nothing to do with, I don't think I'm not I don't know, I'm just a regular dude just with my own set of thoughts and principles and beliefs, but it's like, we're in a space where like ignorance is a sin. And like ignorance should not be a sin. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's an unwillingness to be educated. Then that's the problem. Like, when people are not open to going, I got it wrong, tell me how I can do better. When people can't be accountable and say, you know what, I got it wrong, tell me how to do better.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Me personally, like, if I think about my background and how I grew up, right? I had a lot of prejudices and biases which were just categorically wrong, but I didn't know any better because of the environment I came from. And it's just simple things. Like, sometimes, like, I don't know, this sounds mad silly, but like, you go to the countryside, I'm black, you go to the countryside, I don't need to tell I'm black, you know I'm black. You know I'm black.
I was aware, yeah.
You go to the countryside and people ask you silly questions, right?
Yeah.
You know, like, that they don't ask you in London. You know, like, you know, they go to touch your hair or say, oh, you know, you must be really strong. Just silly little biases that we've all heard before, right? And some people must be like, you must be so offended. I'm like, bro, I'm out here, there's no other black people. Their only interaction with black people is like a movie or some shit.
Yeah.
So I'm not offended by their ignorance. And I'm patient if they're willing to learn and have a certain kind of dialogue. And like, but they could, if they had that same expression on the internet, they could be criminalized, shut down, lose their jobs.
So how important, I think it's amazing to hear your view on it, but so how important do you think increasing representation is then to help educate people on that mass scale? Where, for example, especially in a society where people are moving more and more online, their actual experience of the real world around them is decreasing day by day. How important do you think that representation is? And we had Niaz before we both went to uni with, and he was saying, the amount of messages he gets from people because they can see what he's done, and now you need to see it to believe it. So how important do you think that is to help educate people on a broader scale?
Which people? As in like just generally?
Everyone. Yeah, everyone.
What would that representation look like?
Well, I guess it's an interesting question. I guess for me, where I've seen it, and in terms of like people we've had on this show, is more impacting people and their self-belief, seeing people in different roles and saying, well, therefore I can do that because I can visualize it. We talk about sports, sports psychology. One of the main ways of being a winner is visualizing yourself scoring that 3-pointer, scoring that penalty, scoring whatever it is. So I think that's one of the places where representation can really make a difference, is helping people see it to believe it.
I would 100% agree. It's very important. But I also just think like, I would just not have that as my focus personally. Everyone got to have a mission, and I think representation is a great priority. Like, I really believe that. But I think it's always underpinned by empathy. And like, empathy takes a creative imagination. Like, I don't need to be you specifically to understand how much work you've put in to get to a certain position where you're running multiple businesses. I don't have to be, I'm trying to say this also without getting cancelled.
This is the life we live every day.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
I don't have to all right, I identify, let's say, as a heterosexual male.
Yeah. And
I can't share what the experience of being a queer male is, right? For example, like my business partner Ben, who you know, we talk about this stuff all the time, but I can empathize with what it feels like to be judged, criticized, and treated differently based on something that is very natural and very just like, it's not even a decision you make in your life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
you can't live every experience, right?
I can't live every
Exactly.
I can't live every experience, then I have to learn to create further degrees of empathy.
100%.
And like, if you have that, like, I don't have to live and walk around in your skin to know how it feels in some ways to experience the things you have, and just to be kinder for that reason.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why I think it's all about capacity for empathy. It's all about that. We can't all live every experience, like, it's not possible. And that's why sometimes I think people do worry about things like Twitter, where it's so easy to dehumanize and to separate, the subject from the reality, right? And that's where it can get quite tricky, I think, where you get these trolls who they have no identity because they have pure anonymity, and they don't see it as humanity. But that's why for me, like, I do think, having shared live experiences, talking about music and the things that you guys create, those are the things that build empathy. Those are the things that actually build community.
Yeah, 100%. That's what I think. That's why I do it.
Yeah.
Like, I think that I have always enjoyed just meeting people that are different to me. You know what I mean? Like, different experiences, different backgrounds. Like, even me as a person, it's like, my parents are from Ghana. They came here, but I was born here. Already our experience just talking to each other is different. You know what I'm saying? Like, they grew up in a village in Ghana in like the 50s. I grew up in Elephant and Castle in the 90s. Like, their first language is not English. You know what I'm saying? So like, even that at home, that I want to call it I guess it's a cultural tension. Like, that cultural tension I found interesting. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I totally. My
It's
mum grew
wild.
up in communist Hungary. She ended up in a refugee camp for 2 years. When they got out, there were people living in their house who they just had to share the house with.
100%.
But that's what it was. And growing up in northwest London, it's like me and my mum cannot very much relate to the same upbringing.
Exactly.
But I think that does build empathy, right? It builds that empathy. It builds that fascination in people as well.
Yeah, 100. And I don't know, man. There's a lot to think about.
We're not going to solve all the world's problems today.
cool.
We might try to solve a few of them. So going back to your relationship with Risk now, obviously COVID happened.
Yeah.
You guys were flying. You had so many big plans, and that forces a huge pivot. You know, talk us through that.
Yeah, so like we were a predominantly live music company for most of the time, but we always had these like small divisions off, i.e. the recorded section and then the brand partnership section of what we do as a company. And obviously live music overnight, boom, you know what I mean? Zero revenue, overheads, and no clear way of understanding when this shit's coming back. It was wild. I was like, oh shit, I'm actually so untalented. Because I sat at home, I have no idea how to make bread.
Yeah.
And I started trading. Do you know what I mean? I was doing the Bitcoin
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Brother, I taught myself so much new stuff, yeah. But that was like, you know, it was 6 months of quiet because like everyone in the world had this space where they were adjusting at the same time. And like we particularly had no idea when live would come back, how it would come back, if it would ever come back in the same way. And it has changed massively. So yeah, we just adapted. You know, we had a bunch of copyright that we'd grown over time, by which I mean like the rights to some music. Yeah. And then we did a deal with The Orchard based on our story. The Orchard's a company owned by Sony, and we wanted an aura home for alternative music, particularly in soul and R&B, and we, you know, did the deal, and that just got us through the tough times, man. It was about adapting, you know what I'm saying? Like, we realized we couldn't do anything live.
Yeah.
Everything was online, digital. That's where we put our focus. And, you know, fortunately, that's also created a lot of value in what we do, and has become a much bigger revenue stream in our business in a way that we didn't anticipate or even plan for. So, I mean, to answer your question, because I have a way of riffing, but to answer your question, we just evolved, we adapted, and you know, a bird in the hand's worth two in the bush.
Necessity is the mother of all invention, right?
Facts, 100%.
Yeah. And now, I mean, obviously you guys just run an amazing series with Alternet, which I wanted to know more about, and because it looked incredible.
Yeah, it
looked amazing. But now is live coming back in a way that you think this is central to music again, or has it totally shifted the way you guys approach business, and you're not going to go back?
No, definitely live is always going to be something that we do because it's our heritage. Like me and my business partner, Ben Cross, who I've known since I was 11 years old, we threw our first party when we were 15, 16. Like you talk about wanting to have good conversation as part of your art form, like running a good live show. That's my art form, man. Like I just feel I just love putting lots of beautiful people in a room together.
I don't believe that. You had me at the first Cloud X Festival.
Yeah, you're right. You're actually very much a part of it, so I should have left you at home. No, but it's like people that have interest, and like because the music that we platform, it attracts a certain kind of crowd, people that are interested in the intersection of culture. So to create that environment, yeah, we're always going to do it. But to your point, look, the thing about live is that it's scalability. You can't compare it to anything digital. Like, how do you scale live events? Go from 1,000 to 5,000, the risk is high. 5,000, 10,000, risk even higher. 10,000, 100,000. Now you gotta make another festival, live video. Now it's raining on the day of the festival. Nobody comes, you're fucked. You know what I'm saying? So we're always gonna do live, and we're always gonna push that live space, but like, I'm thinking about mad things, man. Like live is where we started, and it gives you a good backbone on how to deal with pressure, how to manage a lot of people, a lot of different kinds of people, a lot of egos. But yeah, that's always gonna be something we do.
Yeah, and I think it's amazing. I remember we had a conversation about a year ago, I think it must have been, or around that time, where you talked previously about limitations of different formats, and obviously traditional formats are incredibly prohibitive in that way. But now when we're looking at the way that people are using NFTs and new types of technology
course.
to extend the, talk about intersection of technology and music now. Is that getting you excited in terms of where the future's going?
If I'm honest, no.
Okay.
It gets me excited in a commercial, not excited, it gets me curious in a commercial aspect, right? Because it's like, cool, there's ways to interact with people and get them to engage on like a global level at one point. But it's so impersonal. Like there's just nothing, it's like I can Zoom you, but it's not real. Do you know what I'm saying? Like even meeting on Zoom is not the same thing.
Yeah.
Like I am not excited in and of itself of business opportunities. That doesn't excite me. Like changing how people think and why they think that way and creating very real human connection.
Yeah.
That's what makes me feel alive. Like when you're in a room, like I was yesterday, with an artist called Kwaku Asante, who's been building his career really organically and started with 0 fans. And yesterday he had 800 people in the
Amazing.
room. And you feel the energy and people are singing along and there's someone sweating on your shoulder and someone dropping a drink on you. You're like, oh shit, this is real. You know what I'm saying? Like, So I have to be honest. No, I'm not excited by people living online digitally.
Yeah.
Like, where's it going to go? In 25 years, our kids will just be talking through.
Oh, they'll never leave the house.
They won't leave the house.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't even, it makes me question the bigger things. Like, what is it to be a person? Like, literally, what is it? Is it just like my mind and I put on a headset and now I can be walking around, I basically have a body, ain't even a real body, it's a Sims body, but I'm doing business, so it doesn't matter. The fuck?
I mean, I think that's the way it's going. I'm not excited by it. I think there's with technology, there's 2 sides to it, right? Now, there are some amazing use cases I've seen of people who are like, in palliative care towards the end of their life, getting on VR glasses, getting to go to Machu Picchu, which is what they always wanted to do. And like, when you look at that side of technology, obviously you can do some amazing things and get people amazing experiences. On the other hand, are we all just sitting at home, never leaving the house again because I can get everything in one click to my door, I can one click social interaction, I can one click love soon enough. So there's 2 sides to it. I think with a few other musicians that I've spoken to about this, one of the things that excites them about the NFT space maybe is that they can, in the way that they see it, build a connection with a wider fan base where the fan base is being rewarded for their early support. And I guess they like that part. But when you put it in that way of how does that compare to a live environment, that feeling of the room, seeing those 800 people together in one space, it feels worlds apart.
Also, I don't want my fans, I don't have any fans, but if I'm a person, I don't want, but like, if as a person, like, I want you to love what we're talking about. I just want you to love the music and the story and the feelings that we're talking about. How am I connecting that to, you have my NFT and I was an early supporter, therefore I get an extra 2% every time he makes it. Fuck all of that. I just and the funny thing is, I'll probably use that model, and I'm going to, so I talk about like using the world around us to better and push things forward, because if I can monetize from that, then maybe I can invest further into live, and, but like, do I care about it in and of itself? No, I care about authenticity. I care about feeling, I care about connection, I care about intimacy. Genuinely, that's actually how I live my life. Like,
love that.
You've known me a long time, what now? 12 years probably.
Yeah, a long time, I
got the same people around me. Come, you're gonna come to a party, you're gonna look up and say, oh yeah, there's Tej. Oh yeah, there's Tej.
I literally ran into you and Tej the other night.
Exactly. I'm so consistent in my love that I need to see that back from, that's what I need. I don't need to, I'm not saying that's what anyone else should do, but for me as a person, what I need is like authentic intimacy from people and with people. And that's what makes me feel excited.
Love that. It's an amazing answer. Tell me a bit about the Outernet series, because I've seen this venue, like it's mind blowing, and like you guys must have been one of the first, one of the first sets of
events. We're the first series there, 100%.
Yeah,
and I'm very proud. First series there.
It's amazing. It's incredible. How did you pull it off? I mean, if there's anyone who's going to pull it off, it was going to be you, and that's what I know about you.
You know what? We met the people that started the building, and we walked into the building when it was literally bricks and mortar. Like, I'm talking, like, just to explain it, right now it is a state-of-the-art music venue and district with the craziest technology, all these like 8-dimensional screens, 200 meters underground, and it has this venue, and it is like, you literally come out of Tottenham Court Road Station, you're there, right? It's like 10-second walk. Anyway, the people that bought the district bought the whole of Denmark Street.
Oh, really?
So I heard about this happening for a friend of mine who's, you know, he's quite high up in Live Nation. He said, you got to meet the people. I think you're going to like the space. They're looking to program some interesting stuff and make sure that it benefits communities. I said, community? That's me. There we go. Anyway, so I met the owners of the space. They showed us the plans of what it was going to feel like and look like. And they very much said, look, we know that we've come in and bought Denmark Street, which is a big part of music culture. So we want to make sure we keep that spirit and we don't alienate communities. We want to invite and make it feel inclusive. So we said, look, when you open, we want to run a winter series of live music of people that probably wouldn't have used or even heard of this venue before. Not just the talent, but the communities that surround the talent. So we just organized, you know, 4 nights of iconic artists for us, people that were pushing the boundaries culturally in their own spaces. So we had an amazing artist called Mira May. She's like an R&B soul singer who's just really great at bringing together her community, and she's from Algeria and she represents that a lot. You know, it was part of her set design and it was part of her story, even of the show. Then we had Lancey Foe, real weirdo. You know what I mean? So East London, but the guy completely is very one of one. You know, you have to see him. I'm not going to even bother explaining him. He's just out of this world. Like,
but he's done amazing.
Alien,
seeing his journey over the last couple of years is insane.
100%. We're very blessed to be part of that journey, and he keeps inspiring a lot of our thought processes. And then the final night was JME, who obviously is a founder of grime music, and he has this pirate radio, live radio station where he kind of brings all the OGs from the game, and you're not allowed to film anything, even getting photos of it. He wasn't happy.
Really?
Yeah, like he wants it to be very in the moment.
Amazing.
Which is, you know, very reflective of what I like and what we stand for as a company at Cloudx. You know, very real life experiences. And so we had those 4 nights, and you know, every night was sold out. Amazing crowds, amazing communities. Everything went so smoothly, and yeah, you know, next year we're looking to do 7 nights.
Amazing.
And bring that same sort of energy right in the middle of central London, and you know, the middle of Soho, and hopefully, we can keep bringing something special.
That is special, because creating that in Tottenham Court Road, like next to the station, like it's something which, you know, is such an amazing opportunity, and being able to, you know, because I'm sure that venue is going to be around for a long time and be.
I want to be part of that legacy.
Yeah. Well, you already are, right?
Yeah,
You've done the first series.
I was there first.
Yeah.
I was there.
100%.
No, but me and Ben had been percolating these ideas for years. So to be able to build that together, like, was really cool, and our whole team were just so infused and proactive in getting it done. So I feel very blessed.
Amazing. Amazing. Right, I've got 5 questions I ask everyone.
Yes.
Single biggest risk you've taken in your career or life, and what was the outcome?
Telling my partner I love her. Biggest risk.
How did it turn out?
Amazingly. I love her. You know, that was very difficult. I'm not, you know what I mean? That was hard, because, you know, you're putting it all out there. It's real vulnerable. It's really, it's a vulnerable moment when you have to say that and to mean it and know that that is the person that holds your hands, your heart in their hands. That's a mad move. So that was amazing. And how has it turned out? We got a whole lifetime ahead to see, but it's been beautiful, and I love her loads, and I'm very grateful.
It's amazing. That's delivered like a true philosopher, I've got to say.
It's honest, that's what it is, yeah.
Okay, what is the thing you're most proud of?
I am most proud of the relationships I keep with my friends and family. I believe that I've got friends since I was like 4 years old. And to be able to keep those people in my life in such a healthy way where we all love and support each other and, you know, have very real and authentic and honest relationships, that's what I'm most proud of. Like the relationships I have in my life, like I can never be an unhappy man. That's it. Like, I'm most proud of that, and the work that we've all collectively put in to keep those relationships going. I think, yeah, that's what makes me proud.
Okay, love that. What does it take to be successful?
He's the most successful one. You should be telling me. I'm sitting here, man. You tell me. What does it take? Self-awareness, courage, hard work, and an ability to dance.
That's where I'm fucking up. That's where I'm fucking up.
100%. Now I'm thinking that last one don't make sense. You're killing it. Yeah, but yeah, those 4 things, man. You gotta know how to play, and you've got to be able to enjoy it. And then all the other stuff, you gotta have courage. You know, you get a lot of rejection. You're gonna have a lot of tough times. You're gonna be down often, and you gotta keep going. And there's a lot of people who are gonna get in your ear. You gotta have the courage to believe in yourself, and that's where that self-awareness comes in.
Totally.
So yeah, those are the things I'd say for me. Maybe.
I think those are the biggest ones. I couldn't agree with you more. I think just the point there you're making at the end as well, like you're gonna have so many people in your ear along the way, right? People who love you as well, and they're coming from a good place.
That's the tough part, yeah.
That's the tough one, right? And it's not because they don't want to support, it's them giving their view on it. But it was Steve Jobs who said this, is, you know, perseverance is 50% of success.
100%.
You know, literally just that characteristic, that attribute alone, that's what separates so many people. Is if you can keep going through those comments and those voices in your head, because often the voices in your head are not your voice.
100.
It's things you picked up from elsewhere as well.
100%.
Okay, 2 more questions for you. If you could do one thing differently in your career that you've done, like if you could change one thing, or life, like if you could change one thing and do it differently, what would it have been?
Well, I don't think I'm the guy to ask that question. I think, I don't really know. I just think that I'm on a constant learning mission, and like, you know, the story we tell ourselves of ourselves is super important. You know, like this Arundhati Roy, she's like one of my favorite authors, she says that, and like, I look back and any mistakes I've made, I've learned from, or I've kept trying to learn. So if I could change anything, I don't know, man, nothing. I just say I'm happy. I got my friends and my family. So I just want to keep learning. And, you know, maybe I wish I could have adopted that mindset earlier in life, but what's that? Do you know what I mean? Like, nah.
My last one for you. 15-year-old David walks in right now. What are you telling him?
Calm down. Just calm down. I was getting in scraps all left, right, and center. You know what I'm saying? I was just activated. I'd just be like, chill out, man. And read quicker and more. And like, I was reading bare back then, and I wish I read even more. Do you know what I'm saying? But like, just calm down. Like, it's all right. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to be so active, G.
Amazing.
I just seen him walking, and I was just like,
it took you 1 second.
I literally just, I was like, bro, just calm down.
That's so funny. You sat on a lot of those questions. As soon as 15-year-old David's in here, straight away.
I saw him pop inside, like with an attitude. I just calm down.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Right, anything you want to plug?
What do I want to plug? Look, we're called CloudX. Find us on Instagram, Twitter, Google, any of those places. But whatever you're doing, just keep going. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with other people, and try and enjoy life and not take it too seriously.
Amazing. David, thank you so much for coming on.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.